समझ नहीं आ रहा अपने सैलरी इंक्रीमेंट का क्या करूं।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है? अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स के एसआईपी का टॉप अप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
क्या समझ में नहीं आया?
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है? अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स का एसआईपी टॉपअप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
अब समझा।
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
There's not a day that seems to go by where my program does not start with the following line. And that line is, Trump has done it again. And well, yes, Donald Trump has indeed done it again. This time he has made a massive claim about what Prime Minister Modi purportedly told him in a conversation that the MEA says it is not aware of. Trump claims that Modi told Trump that India will soon stop the purchase of Russian oil. The last on-record statement that we have on this particular matter, apart from the MEA response today, is India's envoys to Russia saying that India would buy oil where it gets the best deal. Today, responding to Trump's claim, the MEA said that it would continue to prioritize consumer interests in any decision that it makes. And it went on, the spokesperson went on to say that he was not aware of any recent conversation between Prime Minister Modi and Donald Trump. The last documented phone call to have taken place between the two leaders is when Modi called Trump to congratulate him on the Gaza Peace Pact. So what's going on and how should India respond? Domestic politics has also erupted. Rahul Gandhi has targeted Prime Minister Modi yet again. I'm Barkha. You're with the Mojo Story. On the program today, Donald Trump is now making a big claim about what the Prime Minister supposedly told him. According to him, very soon, he called it a process, but he said very soon, India would stop the purchase of Russian oil. Now, remember, before the Ukraine war, India used to take almost next to no oil from Russia. But as of today, Russia remains the single largest supplier of oil to India. Reports say that there have been a 10% drop in volume, but this is only a modest or slight dip. As I mentioned, Russia remains a very, very significant source of oil for India, oil that India gets at cheaper rates than it would if it bought this oil elsewhere. Now, Trump claims that this is all going to end. This is Trump's claim. The MEA has not reacted to this claim directly and has only said that India will prioritize the interests of the consumer, the interests of the Indian citizen. The MEA has also said that they're not aware of any recent phone call that has taken place between Modi and Trump, because Trump has specifically said that this is what Modi told him. Domestic politics has, of course, erupted. Rahul Gandhi is targeting the Prime Minister. Yet again, he says that, that Modi should contradict Trump and demands to know why the Prime Minister has not contradicted Trump. So there's a lot to talk about. It's been one hell of a week as far as Donald Trump is concerned. We've all seen the way he snubbed the United Kingdom's Prime Minister at the signing of the Gaza Peace Pact, giving the podium instead to Pakistan's Shehbaz Sharif, and then literally prompting Shehbaz Sharif to praise Trump, making flattering comments about Italian leader Meloni, and then, of course, describing Asim Munir to be his favorite field marshal. And now comes this. He did also call Modi a great man, a great friend, India a great country, but then made this big claim, almost leaving no self-respecting leader any wiggle room to even make a deal, even if there was a deal. To understand everything that's going on, let me introduce our guests, our distinguished panel of experts on the program today. Tavleen Singh, veteran author, columnist, journalist, is with us. Good to see you, Tavleen. Also joining us is Prasad Duvuri. Prasad is somebody who lives out of both India and America, an entrepreneur. Good to see you, Prasad. Veteran diplomat, Ambassador Dr. Mohan Kumar is with us. Welcome back to the program, sir. And also joining us is Dr. Happymon Jacob, who, of course, is the editor of India's World magazine, a magazine that you must pick up if you haven't already. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us. I've got to play out Trump's comments. As always, the dangerous thing about Trump is that he always makes you partly giggle, but it isn't actually funny. There are serious consequences to all of this, but it's just outrageous. And sometimes you don't know how to respond, but to just say, oh my God, and then laugh. Take a look at his latest claim.
We have a great relationship. No, we were not happy with him buying oil from Russia because that lets Russia continue on with this ridiculous war where they've lost 1.5 million people, by the way. Russia's lost 1.5 million people, soldiers mostly. This is a war that should have never started, but it's a war that Russia should have won in the first week, and they're going into the 4th year. And I want to see it stop. So I was not happy that India was buying oil. And he assured me today that they will not be buying oil from Russia. That's a big stop. Now I got to get China to do the same thing.
So I want to start by getting Ambassador Dr. Mohan Kumar to give his first responses there. As a diplomat, how do you handle something like this? I mean, we had a very measured statement, very subtle statement from the MEA that continues to deal Trump with subtlety. Were you shocked when you heard Trump say this, or is this vintage Trump now and nothing about him shocks you?
No, I think we are used to it by now. We are dealing with something exceptional. You can call it public diplomacy if you like. I think the EAM, the External Affairs Minister, said he's carrying out very public diplomacy. I've always felt that you must take President Trump seriously, but not literally. So I still maintain that is the right strategy to follow. Word by word, if you're going to retaliate, if you're going to rebut, if you're going to disagree, it's counterproductive, and it's also a waste of time. He says a lot of things. You take him seriously, obviously. What is it that I interpret from this statement of President Trump? Let me tell you, this is what he would like India to do. It doesn't mean Prime Minister Modi or anybody has conveyed to him. I'm not sure. And the MEA has certainly not confirmed it. But this is what ideally he would like India to do. What are we saying? I think it's important to remember that the Commerce Secretary and the Chief Negotiator is in DC as we speak. It is something that he has said. I'm not trying to get the Commerce Secretary into trouble by saying he would have said this, but he would have made a series of points to the American delegation, which is we can increase energy purchases from US over a span of time, over a period of time. Indian imports to Russia will dwindle. He may not have said zero. So this has gone back to President Trump, and he has said, Modi has told me. What Modi has told me is through the Commerce Secretary, I'm assuming. So the other thing to remember, Barkha, is that public sector oil companies have reduced purchases from Russia. This is significant. To the extent the Indian government has control over public sector companies, we have substantially reduced purchases, but not the private sector. The private sector in India, I'm assuming, will do what they like. This is also a point that we would have conveyed to Washington, D.C. So in any case, my sense is we are conveying to D.C. 3 things. 1, we need time. 2nd, we are doing our best. Don't expect us to just overturn the relationship overnight with Russia. 3rd, we are also telling the US, please offer energy to us at competitive prices. We are very happy to diversify. The Commerce Secretary has said it. The Oil Minister has said it. Everybody has said that India needs to diversify its energy purchases. But in order to diversify, we need options. We just can't keep going to the Middle East. Let the United States offer energy at competitive prices. India will lap it up. And finally, they've said this boilerplate thing, which is that the consumer interest is important. And we actually, more than consumer interest, of course, is important. I think the most important for India is we do not want to see a spike in international oil prices. That, I would say, is the most important from an economy point of view, because every dollar increase in the Brent crude or the energy purchase has an impact on GDP. But I'll stop here, Barkha.
Just very briefly, were you surprised that there wasn't more of a direct contradiction? Like, the MEA did not say, no, Trump is wrong. You are saying we shouldn't even get drawn into that kind of tit-for-tat battle with Trump. I want to just play out what the MEA spokesperson actually said, just a short snippet of what he said, and then we look at what the data tells us about India's import of Russian oil. But let's take a look at the MEA first.
See, on the issue of energy sourcing, we have made a statement. This was put out in the morning today. We would request you to look at that particular statement for the questions that you have. On the question of whether there was a conversation or a telephone call between Prime Minister Modi and President Trump, I am not aware of any conversation yesterday.
So, I mean, you already explained, Ambassador Kumar, that Trump may be saying Modi told me, as paraphrase for what the Commerce Secretary is saying to the delegation, to the Americans. Just very briefly, did you expect a sharper sort of, no, Modi did not talk to Trump, or is that not the way we conduct diplomacy even in the age of Trump?
No, I think we're doing it right. I have always maintained strategic restraint is the best way to do it. The level at which this has been done, with due respect, the spokesperson of the External Affairs Ministry, the way in which it has been done, the boilerplate statement that has come out is absolutely the right tone and pitch to adopt. That is the way you should react. So don't contradict him. Just press with your own position. People are intelligent. They will draw their own conclusions, is what I'm saying.
Okay, let me open this up now. I'll come to you, Tavleen. What do you make of this? I mean, praise for Modi in a week when Asim Munir has been praised at a podium where Keir Starmer, the UK is America's closest ally, has been snubbed to make space. I mean, Sharif was given a chance to speak, Starmer wasn't. So that's Trump. We have to first understand what sort of entity we're dealing with. He praises Modi. He says he's a great friend. He says Modi loves Trump, but I don't want Modi to get into trouble. We'll play that clip also later. Ambassador Dr. Mohan Kumar says this is the response you need. You've got to be more restrained with him. You can't get into a kind of slanging match with him. How do you see the MEA response to Trump's claim?
I actually agree with the ambassador that we shouldn't be responding to every single thing that he says. Because, for a start, I've just come back to India after a month in Europe. And I promise you, he's on a high like you would not believe. Even Western media that, treats him like a clown, that has been attacking him, etc., is suddenly overwhelmed, shaken up by, I think the Economist said, it's an extraordinary moment in the Middle East. Now, he's gone and pulled off something that nobody dreamt would happen in the Middle East. He's changed the whole picture, right? Iran's proxies are all in disarray. Iran itself, Iran's nuclear program, and he said the other day, they're never going to. You see, he's given to speaking a language that is not normal in diplomacy. I don't think he's ever heard that word. And he's totally unpredictable. So really for India, as the ambassador said quite rightly, we've shown a certain amount of restraint. I just don't think we should be responding to everything he says. Not everybody.
When he makes a direct comment saying Modi told me, and the MEA is saying we don't even know what conversation he's referencing.
Well, I don't even think that the MEA should have got into it. They should have said, well, maybe that's what Mr. Trump thinks or something like that. We never know what Mr. Trump is going to say next. Now, the things we need to take seriously are what is actually done. For instance, the tilt now to Pakistan is so clear and so disturbing, to say that he's my favorite field marshal, and he's met this field marshal 4 times, I think, for intimate little lunches and all that sort of thing. I don't think he's met our prime minister once since this term began.
I know about 2 meetings with Asim Munir, not 4, but certainly one with Shehbaz Sharif, one separately, and then he met Shehbaz Sharif maybe for the 3rd time at this Gaza. Maybe I'm counting wrong, but that's how I remember it. But that's not the point. His tilt is clear. That larger point is taken. He called Munir his favorite field marshal from a world stage where he didn't allow the Keir Starmer to speak.
Has he met Modi at all?
But that could also be because Modi is thinking, I don't want to go to this peace pact and be part of this spectacle. They may
By the
meet
way,
in ASEAN.
I think that he should have gone. That's my view. I'm not.
You think he should have gone?
To Sharm el Sheikh for this, where everybody gathered to celebrate the Gaza thing. Yes, of course, I think he should have gone.
He would have had to stay there and watch Asim Munir be lavished
So,
praise.
so what? Why is India so, why do we keep bringing ourselves down to Pakistan? So what if he's had a little, private chat with Shahbaz Sharif? It's not our business. We have to do what's in our interest. India cannot stay away from the high table if we want to get counted at the high table.
Okay, let's bring in Dr. Happymon Jacob now. How do you read it, Happymon? Should the MEA have responded at all? Did they respond in an appropriate way? Let's also look at the numbers. The numbers tell you that there is an 8 to 10%, depending on which tracker you use, there's an 8 to 10% drop in the import of Russian oil in the last few months. However, Russia remains India's largest source of oil. This is what the numbers tell us at this point. The MEA does not come out and say, yes, we'll stop, nor do they say, oh, Trump is a liar. They have stuck to the Indian way of doing diplomacy, which is very polite, very restrained, very cautious in its articulation. Does this come with a cost? Because, what we don't realize is there is a domestic political challenge for the Prime Minister here. Trump says this. He says Modi is a great guy, but the opposition then pounces on the Prime Minister, right? So it's complicated. It isn't just a foreign policy issue. It is also a domestic political issue. Happymon.
Right. Thank you, Barkha. I think to begin with, for our viewers, it is important to remind them that India is not violating any sanctions by buying Russian oil, Russian energy. There are no sanctions in place, and the European Union is buying a lot more gas than India, and China is buying a lot more energy from the Russians than India is doing. So just get that out of the way so that our viewers are not under any impression that India is somehow in the dock for any right reasons, as it were. Point number one. Secondly, I think I would sort of agree with Ambassador Mohan Kumar that the MEA statement is a measured, mature statement, which sort of makes the argument. The way I read it is that it talks about diversification, that we are looking at diversifying the energy sources. It does talk about market forces. And I can also sort of get a sense of the pragmatism that is evident and inherent in that statement. And the way I'm reading that is that we are also looking at buying, if market conditions allow, from the United States. That conversation has been going on. So what I'm sort of taking away from this is that there is going to be at some point of time a balance between the politics of it and the market forces on the other hand. I don't think we will be in a position to completely discard the American sort of a demand, the continuous demand that India should do something about the purchase of Russian oil. We don't want to be forced. We don't like to be in that situation. But I think if we go to deal with the United States of America that we have, rather than deal with the United States of America that we wish to have, and the America that we have is not a reasonable one, is not a mature one. So I think we'll have to sort of find a balance between the geopolitical compulsions of it and the market forces of it. I don't think there is a need to push back or get into the drama that Trump is staging in Washington or other capitals. I don't think we should get drawn into it at all. That's a bottomless pit. But I think the manner in which I think we have responded to it is the correct one. Focus on what he's trying to say, as Ambassador said, rather than the manner he's trying to sort of communicate it to us. Focus on our interests, and as they say, keep calm and focus on what you want out of this situation, rather than get worked up about it. I see the opposition's point, but I believe under the circumstances, the government is left with no choice but to respond in this manner, which is somehow trying to balance the geopolitical aspects of it as well as the market necessities of it, as it were.
I mean, the T-shirt would therefore say "Keep calm and carry on," which is what India is trying to do. But it's easier said than done. Prasad, as somebody who spends your time between both countries, how do you see this? I think Tavleen is right that one of the things that we need to acknowledge is that Trump is on a high, and that you're dealing with somebody who is feeling even more emboldened than he was when he announced these tariffs, right? So that is the sort of reality check of it all. That said, once you've sort of decided to be the country that doesn't kowtow to bullies, it is a very, very fine line now for the government to walk, where you say we're making these choices in our own interest. We're not making them because Trump is forcing them to make these choices. How do you see it? Could we unmute Prasad, please? Prasad, can you unmute yourself? Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you for calling me on the show, Barkha. I have a few points to make on this. Firstly, I think what we call it as strategic multipolarity, or whatever that is called, that we practice, where we have our own interests and whatever serves India's interests best is the way we are going to pursue our foreign policy, and not be, arm twisted or cowed down by anyone or any force. I think that is very true. One reason for, in my opinion, one reason for Modi not going to the Gaza summit also would have been not just the Munir and the Shehbaz Sharif thing, but also it was always known that Netanyahu was not going. And India-Israel relationship is very close and very tight. And so I think that may have played a small role in there, besides all the other surround sound that he wanted to avoid, and, be putting himself in an embarrassing position where Trump would make some off-the-cuff remark like what he did to the UK Prime Minister. That was one. But I think coming to the Russian oil thing, there are two things. First, when we say we have dropped our purchases by 10%, it is not that we have dropped our purchases by 10% vis-a-vis before the war of Russia, before the Russia-Ukraine war versus now. It is what we've been buying recently, 10% of that, which actually amounts to about 3 percentage points from what we were buying before the Russia war and after the war began. So it's a small drop. It's not a huge drop. That's one. Second, I've read a very detailed report wherein it was a very good perspective of how India had issued more than 1.2 lakh crores of oil bonds in 2010. And since the Russia war began and the price caps that were in place, India was requested by the Americans to actually buy Russian oil at that lower price. It worked very well for us, because what we did is we bought a lot of Russian oil at a very low price, and we were able to therefore pay off almost 80% of those oil bonds that were hanging on the government's neck. Number one. Number two, the private sector that buys the oil from Russia, refines it and resells it back to Europe, they are paying a 15% windfall tax to the government of India for when they're exporting the refined oil. And that windfall tax is being used by the government to strengthen the balance sheet of the OMCs. So even if the OMCs have stopped buying that oil, and it's purely the private sector, the re-export of refined oil is generating huge revenue for India. So I don't think India is going to stop buying Russian oil like how President Trump said yesterday. What they're going to do is they're going to reduce it a little bit and balance it out by also buying American oil. Because if you see the MEA statement this morning and the press conference that followed later on this afternoon, the words that we used very clearly is that the Americans have approached and expressed interest in selling oil to India, which we are exploring and looking into.
Okay, so you're imagining a kind of rebalancing of the books, not bye-bye Russia, to the levels it used to be before the Ukraine war. And indeed, the former American envoy to India, Eric Garcetti, is on record to say at one point that we asked India to purchase this oil to stabilize international oil prices. But there remains the question of, how do you explain to people? You stood up to Trump. Now Trump has made this statement, stop buying this oil. And 6 months later, if our oil imports have considerably reduced from Russia, what will be the narrative to explain that? Before I come to back to the panel, starting with the ambassador, I want to play out another statement from this press briefing where Trump is saying Modi loves Trump. Trump is saying this. Modi has not said that he loves Trump, but Trump is saying that Modi loves Trump. And then says, but I don't want to damage his political career. God knows what he means, but take a look.
You're great. He's a great man, you know. Modi is a great man. That he loves Trump. Now, I don't know if the word love, I don't want you to take that any different. I don't want to destroy his political career, okay? But you have to understand, I've watched India for years. It's an incredible country. And every single year you'd have a new leader.
I mean, Tavleen, there's Kash Patel standing right behind him, who's also the FBI chief of Indian origin. And he's standing there saying Modi loves Trump. And here I have to agree, before I come back to the ambassador, I have to agree. How do you respond to this guy? I mean, yes, he's the American president, not to be taken lightly. But what do you even say? I mean, what do you even say in response to him?
What I found really funny is that he tried to make out that it wasn't love in the sexual sense.
I don't know what he was trying to say.
That's it. He said, I don't want to ruin his career. I mean, what does he mean by that? I don't know.
Who
because
knows?
The only way he can ruin his career is by saying, oh, Modi loves Trump,
No, unless he means he'll be attacked by the political opposition because he loves me, and he keeps getting attacked by the political. God knows what he means. God knows.
Our political opposition, by the way, is in the same category as Trump. We must keep this. As far as I'm concerned, I haven't heard one sensible comment on our diplomacy, on our foreign relations from the political opposition. I mean, India is a dead economy, one. Then call him a liar, Rahul Gandhi said. I want you to, why don't you call him a liar?
Have you seen his latest tweet? It's on the screen. It says PM Modi is frightened of Trump. 1, he allows Trump to decide and announce that India will not buy oil. 2, he keeps sending congratulatory message despite repeated stops. 3, he cancelled the FM's visit to America. He skipped Sharm el-Sheikh. He doesn't contradict him on Operation Sindoor. Tavleen.
I rest my case. I wish you had played the tweet earlier. I would have said nothing more. I find it as difficult to take Trump seriously on everything he says as I do Rahul Gandhi. I mean, is this a serious comment from a serious leader about the Prime Minister or about Indian diplomacy? I'm sorry, but, I find it very hard to take Rahul Gandhi seriously.
So, Ambassador Kumar, let me come to your narratives, right? Instead of trying to double guess what Trump means when he uses a word, then he makes a joke, then he laughs at it himself. The meat of what he has said is, India has assured me, he says Modi and India interchangeably, but you've already explained that. India has assured me that they're not going to be buying Russian oil. Now, is it going to move towards the levels, in your estimation, of what it was, the negligible levels before the Ukraine war? Or are we going to be more balanced about it this time? Because there is an argument that when we agreed to the American pressure to, for example, not buy oil from Venezuela, we set a precedent and Trump expected us to follow the same sort of norm this time. How do you see it, Ambassador?
So, first of all, if you allow me, I think this was one of the more perspicacious comments made by President Trump when he says that I don't want to ruin his career or whatever. I think he is acknowledging there is a residual anti-American sentiment in India. So I think you'll have to give it to him. Somebody is telling him that, listen, you can keep on saying he loves me. I'm not sure he's going to win elections on that basis. So anyway, that's my interpretation, but then that's my personal view. On the other issue, I think I want you to understand 2 or 3 things which has, I think, been recognized by a lot of analysts and observers. One, nobody has really retaliated and stood up to President Trump on tariffs except China. No other country has really stood up to him. That is very important to note. Second, there have been calls for the global South to cooperate and come together, and that has simply not happened. And if I can stick my neck out, it is not going to happen.
Why do you say that? Why do you say that?
I say that because there are too many interests which are diverging on global South. If you go to a forum, even like Shanghai Cooperation Organization, Pakistan will have a different view, India will have a different view, China will have a different view. So you are not going to get a unified stance from the global south. China, to be fair, has tried, but then China, everybody knows, will also do a deal with Trump very soon, if not sooner rather than later. So nobody trusts China either. In this background, I think I'm somewhat proud about my ex-ministry, if you like. I think this is one of those circumstances where we are playing the long game. I think it's good. We realize we have to do this alone. You are not going to get support either from Global South or from Europe or from Japan or South Korea. Let's be clear. So this is something you have to do on your own. The specific response to your question is, obviously, we will not go back to pre-Ukraine consumption levels, but I see a substantial increase in energy purchases from the US. I see a substantial decline. You're going to see a terminal or a secular decline of 5 to 10% every month or every 3 months. And that is, I think, the promise that he wants. Most people have made promises like that. So why do you think you have to make a promise saying I'll bring it down to 0% in 2 months? Look at the promises Japan has made in terms of investment. Look at the promises Europe has made. They don't even intend to keep it, by the way. I don't want to say anything more on the subject. But at least India, we are clear what we want. In this background, I therefore think that the question that the US will ask itself is how India can buy more energy purchases from the US. Also, bear in mind the price differential is already down to $3 or $4. So if the US can give us a discounted petrol or Brent, I don't know why we are not asking. We should pure and simple request Mr. Trump. If I was Commerce Secretary, I would request Jamieson Greer and the American Commerce Secretary, please reduce your oil by 4%. We'll buy all the oil from you. No problem.
Yeah.
After all, that is the differential today. So I think that is really the strategy that we are adopting. And to my mind, Barkha, that is the most sensible thing to do in the circumstances.
Actually, that's a very interesting point. Like, what would happen if you just told the Americans, we're buying the Russian oil because it's cheap, give us a competitive price, we'll buy it from you. Because the MEA has already said that we privilege what is best for our people. We'll go to where it's cheapest. Before Dr. Happybon comes in, Tavleen, I saw your hand go up. Did you have an interjection? Go ahead, Tavleen.
No, I just wanted to make the limited point that I think Brazil has stood up to him. I don't think Brazil has succumbed.
Fair. Yeah, fair. Ambassador is agreeing, so I won't go back to him on that. Dr. Jacob, Happybon Jacob, where from here?
Couple of points, Barkha. Number one, I think I would say I have absolutely no complaint about the opposition, the Indian opposition. The opposition is doing its job. The BJP would have done the same thing had the BJP been in opposition today. So in a democracy, you will have people talking about you need to stand up to bullies, foreign bullies. But it's for the government of the day to sort of decide what is the manner in which it must respond to those kind of comparisons coming from outside. Point number one. Secondly, I think it is, in my opinion, it is wrong to view the oil purchase issue in isolation, or Trump's pressure on India to stop buying oil from Russia in isolation. That's only one of the variables. There are several variables at play. We need the United States to be in the Indo-Pacific. We need the United States to be sort of pushing back the Chinese aggression in the region and beyond. So we need the United States for a variety of purposes and reasons, strategic purposes and reasons in the region and beyond. And therefore, we will have to sort of weigh the oil issue against a lot of other variables in play. So I wouldn't be I wouldn't worry too much about the reduction of the oil purchases from Russia, because I think that is probably going to be one of the decisions India will have to make, in keeping in mind the other variables at play. That's my second.
But what if he cuts the deal, as Ambassador Dr. Mohan Kumar said, with the Chinese? Then what happens to this whole Indo-Pacific play?
Then you'll have to look for new strategies. I mean, this is a quickly changing world. This is a quickly changing administration. It has absolutely no clarity on what it is going to do tomorrow. So we can't be stuck in the past and say we will only do this and we will only do that. That's not how it's going to work. We have 3 more years to go. But that takes me to my next point, which is I think the Indian diplomacy will have to be a lot more agile and creative when it comes to dealing with Trump. And what do I mean by that? See, we are a middle power. We are not powerful enough to push back against the Americans as the Chinese probably can. We are not the Europeans or the Southeast Asians who probably want to sort of bend their knee before Trump and say, all right, and we will sort of do what it takes to please your ego. We are not that. I don't think we want to be in a position where Brazil is. That's not the relationship we want to have with the United States of America going forward. So I think we will have to have an agile, smart diplomacy. Reach out to Trump's closest advisors. Reach out to Trump's family. Why are we not doing that? I think the agility is the need of the hour. But this guy is going to be there in the United States for the next 3 years. So I don't think we can. I'm proud, as Ambassador Mohan Kumar said. I think I agree totally with what the MEA is doing, but I think we need to do a lot more than that. Just to give you one final quick remark about the need to be flexible and agile about things. When the Americans asked India to reduce oil imports from Iran, we did that, right? I mean, so I don't have a problem with the Indian government telling the Americans that we will, of course, reduce the oil purchases from Russia, but we have to have some deals or agreements on other issue areas. So oil is not the only issue that is between the United States of America. That's the most public issue. But there are a variety of issues on the menu here. I think we'll have to have a balanced position looking at all of those.
Prasad, before I give Ambassador Kumar the last word, let me bring your perspective in. This emboldened Trump, in the end, he's going to have to win the midterms. He's going to have to remain a strong domestic political force for him to push through many of these policies, right? How do you see that playing out for him on domestic turf, American domestic turf?
Well, I think that is exactly what we were all chatting before we started the show privately, that it is the domestic politics that is really raining hard on him. The government is shut down. He has found some money from somewhere to pay the military, but then all the government employees don't have a salary that should have gone yesterday. A bunch of government employees, he wanted to fire them, and a judge in San Francisco blocked that. He's having a very hard time domestically, and he's just not getting any positive message out there. One problem with the domestic issue that he's facing is that the deadlock on the budget is funding the government is primarily because of some insurance subsidy renewals. Now, guess what? Those subsidies are more used in Republican states. So even the Republican senators and the congressmen are now caving in, saying that, hey, listen, if we don't renew these subsidies, we will lose the midterms. So there is a lot of domestic pressure that is playing out on him. And that's why he's trying to use all things outside the US to kind of play against the domestic problems that he's got, to kind of skirt over the issues. Now, a couple of more things. One, it's nice. I think our Prime Minister has done a fantastic job on the economy in 3 months. In Mr. Trump's own words, he called us a dead economy 3 months back, and today he called us a great country. 3 months. So obviously the credit goes to the Indian government. I'm being facetious.
No, you should be facetious, because tomorrow he'll again say dead economy. I mean, we should, as Ambassador said, not take him literally.
That's why don't take him literally. In fact, at this point of time, I would say don't even take him seriously. Because we just cannot keep up with his rants all the time and keep responding to that. The other thing, what is important, is the US cannot force India to buy oil, and India in turn cannot ask the US to give it at a certain price, because the US oil companies are private companies. The American government cannot determine that price. Unlike Russia, where the oil company is a government company. And even in India, we have PSUs. So the governments have a role to play in the price discovery. But when it comes to the US oil companies, they're all private companies. So the government cannot say this price is what you guys buy it at. So that's one problem. Secondly, the cost of logistics is not just the price of oil, but the cost of getting the oil all the way from the US up to India is a long journey. I understand a little bit of the logistics. So I can tell you it becomes expensive to buy American oil. That's one reason why American oil has not been traditionally bought by India. So it's a price
Okay.
problem. So I
Okay.
think all
Yeah.
in
So
all,
those.
it's a domestic problem that he's trying to fight by using international diplomacy or whatever, Trumplomacy,
Yeah.
I would call it, to play this game. But
Okay.
beyond that, there's nothing more. And
Okay.
BRICS, to what Ambassador Kumar said, BRICS, all the BRICS countries, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, all have resisted the pressure of Trump on tariffs. India has done it correctly.
And that is why he keeps attacking BRICS. I do have to close, but Tavleen and then Ambassador Kumar for a quick closing word. Tavleen, can we unmute Tavleen, please? Yeah.
Yeah. I think Mr. Jacob totally misunderstood me. I didn't say the opposition should not oppose. Obviously, the opposition is there to oppose. I just think that they should oppose more seriously and not childishly. That's what I was trying to say.
Happy Bond, do you want to respond to that?
Fair enough. I think the language that they use or the kind of tweets the opposition leaders put out, we've all followed the Indian domestic politics for a very long time. I haven't seen the BJP, when in opposition, adopting a very different language. So I think all opposition leaders tend to behave and tend to use the same kind of language. Now we can say that's all bad. Fair enough. They should all become more mature, but this is how they behave, and they should probably know better.
Atal Bihari Vajpayee, for goodness sake, Atal Bihari Vajpayee responded the way Rahul Gandhi does. What are you talking about?
I'm not talking about
Atal
BJP.
Bihari Vajpayee, when he was in opposition, did not respond with childish comments. He responded seriously to policy, which is what I'm trying to say. Rahul Gandhi is not responding to policy. It's always an attack on the Prime Minister personally, which I don't think is a serious way to deal with it.
No, I think the Congress party has made some very important points. So have the other opposition parties. I don't think it is a good idea to sort of call them totally childish and immature. I think there's a lot of important points that are being made by the opposition.
But typically, if I may come here before Ambassador Kumar closes, foreign policy used to be, actually, because you said earlier also this used to happen, foreign policy used to be that one space where you buried your domestic politics. We saw a little bit of that, Dr. Jacob, in Operation Sindhur's global meetings, delegations, I beg your pardon, that went out, right? So, it's that old adage, even the Americans believe in it. You fight as much as you want to at home. When you go out, you're Indian first or you're American first. And foreign policy, when you're dealing with an external sort of challenge, you close ranks. That's something that used to define our politics. Would you not agree?
No, I don't think so. I think there are no holy cows in a democracy. If you're fighting a war, I totally understand. During the Kargil war or during the Operation Sindhur, the opposition actually extended complete support to the government. But on a foreign policy issue, I expect the opposition to have a different viewpoint and air that as strongly as possible. That's what is called a democracy. So I have no issues with that.
Okay, this could go on. Let me, Taveen, do you have a sentence to put in, or should I give Ambassador Kumar the closing word?
No, I totally disagree with him. I mean, I actually have, followed, I'm not as a professor. I can't teach you anything. I'm just a hack. But I don't agree with you at all. I'm sorry.
Okay, long live our disagreements. Long live our disagreements, because that's what we are all about, the argumentative Indians. So, Ambassador Kumar, the closing word to you. Where from here, as I was been trying to understand, what happens now?
So thank you, Barkha, because I cannot overstate the importance of India getting a tariff deal from the US as quickly as possible. Many people are not aware of the fact that our economy is hurting, and I cannot overemphasize the importance of the tariff deal. Anything that we can do and anything and everything that we can do to get a tariff deal out of the US would be good and would be welcome. Second, I think one of two things will happen if I can wear my ex-diplomat's hat for a minute. A lot of things must be settled at the level of the Commerce Secretary. One or two issues will be left for a potential meeting between President Trump and Prime Minister Modi, hopefully on the margins of the East Asia Summit in Seoul, if not soon thereafter. I don't know. But the two principals can only meet when the negotiators have exhausted 90% of the issues. You can't go back to President Trump and Modi and tell him there are 10 issues outstanding, please resolve. Neither of them will be able to do it in our system. So I think that is what we are trying very, very hard. There will be one or two issues on which I think the Prime Minister will have to make this appeal to President Trump. And I strongly suspect Russian oil may be one of them. Because if everything else is resolved, then we can go back and say, listen, this is the only outstanding issue. We need time and we will do our best. And it can only be a best endeavor clause. It cannot be a commitment that India can give saying that we will bring it down to zero by 2026.
Okay, we have to close there. We'll leave it there. Thank you very much. I think the only thing we can say at this point is for both principles, domestic politics is a factor. We cannot sort of act as if foreign policy exists in isolation of domestic politics. It simply can't, it hasn't. We may look for unity when it comes to foreign policy, but all leaders craft foreign policy contextualized and against the backdrop of their domestic politics. So both Trump and Modi, different factors, different challenges, different variables, but that is something you might hear more of as we enter the election season here with Bihar in India. So look out for that as well. In the meantime, thank you very much, everybody. It's been a great conversation. Dr. Happy Moon, Jacob Prasad, Dvori, Tavleen Singh, and Ambassador Dr. Mohan Kumar. Always a pleasure. Thank you. Take care and see you soon. It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.